Hello everyone. Welcome back to my session 4 of this chapter 2 called Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants. Before we move on to this session 4, now let us recollect back like what were the concepts we learnt in session 3 of this chapter called Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants. So what did we learn in the session 3 of this chapter, right? So we studied about gynoecium, that is the female reproductive structure of a flower. Then we studied about the megasporangium. Megasporangium is nothing but the ovule. Then we studied about megasporogenesis. Then we moved on to a very important concept called pollination, and we also studied about the types of pollination and the agents that bring about the process of pollination, right? So moving on to the session 4. So after pollination, what will happen? That is the concept what we are going to study in today's session 4 of sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So what are we going to study in this session then? We are going to study about a very important concept called pollen-pistil interaction. What is this pollen-pistil interaction? So after the process of pollination, as you know, the pollen grains come and fall on the stigmatic surface. So thereon, what are the process that is going to happen is called pollen-pistil interaction. So pollen-pistil interaction is nothing but the transfer of pollen grains on the stigmatic surface, thereby followed by pollen germination followed by the process of formation of a pollen tube carrying the two male gametes and reaching the ovule. All that whole process is called as pollen-pistil interaction. Hope you have understood what is pollen-pistil interaction. From the time of the landing of the pollen grains on the stigmatic surface, so thereon what are the process that is going to happen after the falling of the pollen grains on the stigmatic surface is called pollen-pistil interaction. Now we can study this pollen-pistil interaction into three very important events. So what is the first event? So after the landing of the pollen grains, the first event is called pollen germination. I will explain what is pollen germination. Next is what? Growth of the pollen tube. After the growth of the pollen tube, there is the entry of the pollen tube into the ovule. So what are the three very important events of pollen-pistil interaction? One is pollen germination, the other one is growth of the pollen tube, and then the entry of the pollen tube into the ovule. So from the time of the deposition of the pollen grains onto the stigmatic surface, followed by the process of pollen germination. So once the pollen grains fall on the stigmatic surface, what happens? It germinates. So what is the indication of pollen germination? Indication of pollen germination is nothing but growth of pollen tube. So once the pollen tube is formed, that pollen tube enters or reaches the ovary and enters the ovule. That is called the entry of pollen tube into the ovule. So from the time of the deposition of the pollen grains to the stigma on the stigmatic surface and the entry of the pollen tube into the ovule is referred to as pollen-pistil interaction. I think you have this beautiful picture here, right? Here you can see the pollen grain. This is called the ungerminated pollen grain. This is called ungerminated pollen grain. You can see this one and this one. This you call it as germinated pollen grain. Germinated pollen grain. So what is the difference? So once the pollen grains come and land on the stigmatic surface, if at all the stigma is receptive, it recognizes the pollen grain of its own species, then it is going to allow the pollen germination. What is pollen germination? The process of formation of a tube. Here you can make out. Here it is ungerminated. Here it is germinated. So germinated pollen grain will form a pollen tube like this, and this pollen tube carries what? It carries what we call it as the two male gametes. What does it carry? The two male gametes. Here you can see the process of formation of a long pollen tube. Then it is reaching where? It is going to reach the ovary. Particularly it takes its entry at the micropylla region. You have studied in the last session. There's a small opening, and that opening is called as what? Micropyle. Right? And then the one of the male gamete will enter the embryo sac. As you know, the embryo sac contains what? It has 7-celled 8-nucleate stage, right? So here one of the male gamete will take its entry through the synergids, and one of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form a zygote, the other one fuses with the 2 polar nuclei to form endosperm nucleus. So all this process right from the time of landing of the pollen grains on the stigmatic surface, followed by pollen germination, followed by the process of formation of a pollen tube and carrying the 2 male gametes and reaching the ovary is called pollen pistil interaction. So what is pollen pistil interaction? The events from the time of deposition of pollen grains onto the stigmatic surface, followed by the process of formation of a pollen tube carrying the 2 male gametes and reaching the ovule is called pollen pistil interaction. So as I said, pollination does not guarantee the transfer of the compatible pollen grains. So what do you mean by compatible? Only when the stigma of a flower recognizes the compatible pollen grains, then only it will allow it to germinate. If not, it will not allow it to germinate. So pollination does not guarantee the transfer of the compatible pollen of the same species on the stigma. Often, sometimes you can find that pollen of the wrong type. What do you mean by wrong type? Either from other species or from the same plant, even if it is incompatible, also may deposit on the stigma. So there is no guarantee that only the compatible type of pollen grains are going to fall on the stigmatic surface. Sometimes even the pollen of the wrong type or maybe of the other species or even the incompatible also may deposit or land on the stigmatic surface. But the pistil, the stigma of the pistil or the gynoecium has the ability to recognize the pollen of its compatible or incompatible type. So whether it is compatible or incompatible pollen grains may land on the stigmatic surface, but the pistil has the capacity to recognize the pollen of its compatible or incompatible type. Only if the compatible type, what do you mean by compatible type? As I said, the stigma will recognize the pollen grains of its own species, then you call it as what? Compatible. If it is of other species, it will not, it is called incompatible pollen grain, right? If it is incompatible type, then what will the pistil will do? The pistil will accept the pollen and promote what? Promote post-pollination events. What are the post-pollination event? Very important event is what? Fertilization. That is, the pollen grain should land on the stigmatic surface, germinate, undergo a process of pollen germination followed by the process of formation of a pollen tube carrying the 2 male gametes and reaching the ovule and leading to what? So one of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form a zygote, the other male gamete fuses with the 2 polar nuclei to form what? Endosperm nucleus. So all that event you call it as what? Fertilization. So all this is a very, very important concept to be learned in this chapter called sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Here in this diagram you can see. So here you can see that the pollen tube is carrying the 2 male gametes, and hope you can see here it is taking its entry in this region which is called the micropyle region. Right, this is the micropyle region. Hope you remember in my last session I said, so this male gamete or the pollen tube carrying the male gametes will take its entry near the synergids. So hope you remember the egg apparatus has 2 synergids and 1 egg cell, right? This is the one very important concept. I think you have studied about this in the last session. Filiform apparatus. What is the function of this filiform apparatus? What role it has to play in the process then? This filiform apparatus will guide the pollen tube carrying the male gametes to enter the synergids. So filiform apparatus is a very, very important apparatus to enable the pollen tube carrying the 2 male gametes to enter the synergids and fuse with one of the egg cell. So this is a very, very important concept. So here you can see one of the egg cell, that is one of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form what? This forms what? Zygote. And the other male gamete fuses with the 2 polar. Already you know the 2 polar nuclei are haploid. So one male gamete haploid and 2 more haploid nuclei will form. So this is what we call it as endosperm. Primary endosperm. It is called primary endosperm nucleus. So this is a very, very important concept for you all to learn. what will happen after the process of pollination. A very, very important event will take place after pollination, that is called pollen pistil interaction, right? Hope you have understood. So, pollination does not guarantee the transfer of the compatible or incompatible pollen of the same species on the stigma. So, only when, and as I said, the pistil has the capacity or ability to recognize the pollen of its compatible or incompatible. Whether it is compatible, then only it will allow the pollen grains to germinate. If it is incompatible, it will not allow the pollen grain to germinate. What is that? What is the indication to say that the pollen grain is incompatible? It will not allow the pollen grain to germinate to form a pollen tube. That means to say that the pollen grain is incompatible. If at all, if it recognizes it as a compatible pollen grain, then only it will allow the pollen grain to form a pollen tube carrying the two male gametes. As I said, if it is compatible type, the pistil will accept the pollen and promote what? Post-fertilization event. What is that post-fertilization event? That is nothing but fertilization. Hope you have understood this concept of pollen pistil interaction. So this is a beautiful picture which will give you a clear idea about the pollen pistil interaction. As I said, if the pollen is incompatible, the pistil will reject the pollen by preventing what? By preventing pollen germination on the stigma. And as you know, the pollen tube grows through the tissues of the stigma and into the style. All that will not take place if at all the pollen is incompatible. And this acceptance or rejection or between the pollen grain and the pistil is mediated by chemical compounds, that is chemical components. What is it? Acceptance or rejection between the pollen grain and the pistil. The pistil may receive it or may not receive it, may accept it or may not accept it. All this mechanism is mediated by the chemical substance that are produced by the stigmatic surface along with the pollen grain, right? So this is also a very important concept to be noted. So acceptance or rejection of the pollen grain and the stigma of the pistil is mediated by chemical components. And as I said, if the pollen grain is germinated on the stigma to produce a pollen tube through one of the germ pores. Hope you remember the structure of a pollen grain, as it is two integuments, outer integument and inner integument. You have studied that the outer integument is made up of a very important chemical substance called sporopollenin, but this deposition of sporopollenin does not take place at one particular region called the germ pore, and this germ pore is very, very important for the process of formation of a pollen tube carrying the two male gametes. So if at all the pollen grain is germinated on the stigma, it produces a pollen tube, and it comes out through what? Through which region? It comes out through the germ pore of the pollen grain. And as I said, the contents of the pollen grain then move into the pollen tube. So hope you remember in the last session we studied the pollen grain consists of two cells. One is the vegetative cell, the other one is called the generative cell. Vegetative cell is bigger in size and the generative cell is smaller in size. And the vegetative cell will undergo mitotic division to produce what? Two male gametes, right? So the contents of the pollen grain is nothing but the two male gametes that is carried through the pollen tube, and then it passes through the tissues of the stigma and style and reaches the ovary. Only if the pollen grain is compatible, then only the stigma will allow all this process to happen. If not, it will not allow this process to happen. So only all this process will happen only when the pollen grain is compatible. So what will happen? Once the pollen grain is compatible, the stigma will allow it to germinate. What is the indication of pollen germination? You can see the process of formation of a pollen tube. What is carried in the pollen tube? The two male gametes. How are the two male gametes formed? The generative cell will undergo what? Mitotic division to form two male gametes. And what is carried along with the two male, along with the pollen tube? The two male gametes. Where do they reach? They reach the ovule, where near the micropylar region, and takes its entry through the synergids. So you can see once again in this diagram. So once the pollen grain is germinated, you can see the process of formation of a pollen tube, and what is carried in this two male gametes. And as I said, it takes its entry near the micropylar region. And hope you know, you remember the egg apparatus has a very important substance called filiform apparatus, and this filiform apparatus will allow the pollen tube to enter the synergids carrying the two male gamete, right? This is what you have studied even in the previous picture. Here you can see here. So you can see the pollen grains here. So why there is a process of formation of a pollen tube here? Only because the compatible pollen grains are deposited on the stigmatic surface. Only when compatible, that is the pistil will recognize the pollen grains of its own species, then only you can see the process of formation of a pollen tube like this. Right, here you can see that there is no process of formation of pollen. Maybe unwanted pollen grain might also be deposited on the stigmatic surface. So that is the reason why you don't see the process of formation of a long pollen tube like this. Here you can see, here in this picture also you can see here, both the pollen grains are not germinated. Why it is not germinated? Because the stigma has not recognized it as its own pollen grain of the same species, hence it has not allowed it to germinate. So here it is allowing it to germinate. Here in one of the pollen grain it is allowing it to germinate, but here it is not allowing it to germinate. So that means to say that the stigma will recognize the pollen grains of its own compatible type, and then only it will allow it to germinate. Right, hope you have understood this concept. So what is this concept? If the pollen is incompatible, the pistil will reject the pollen by preventing what? By preventing pollen germination on the stigma or the growth of the pollen tube in the style. And acceptance or rejection between the pollen grain and the pistil, that is the stigma of the pistil, is mediated by what? Is mediated by chemical components. If at all the pollen grain is germinated, what is the indication that it is germinated? It is indicated by the process of formation of a pollen tube. What is carried in the pollen tube? The two male gametes, which come out through which region of the pollen grain? Through the germ pore, right? And the contents of the pollen grain move into the pollen tube. And where do they reach? This pollen tube carrying the two male gamete passes through the tissues of the stigma, then passes through the style. And I hope you remember, this is the style, right? This is the style. So it passes through the pollen tube passes through the tissues of the stigma, then through the style, and it will reach the ovule. So all this mechanism is called as pollen pistil interaction, right? Now, in few plant species, the pollen grains are shed at two cell stage. What is the two cell stage? One is the vegetative cell, the other one is the generative cell. In such plants, the generative cell will divide and form two male gametes during the growth of pollen tube. So there are one chances in some few plants, the pollen grains are shed at two cell stage. What are the two cell stage? One is called the vegetative cell stage, the other one is called as the generative cell stage. But in some other plant species where the pollen grains are shed at three cell stage. What is this three? There two celled means what? One is vegetative cell, the other one is the generative cell. What do you mean by three cell stage? That is, one is the vegetative cell and the other two are the male gametes. So it is called three cell stage, where the pollen tube will carry the two male gametes, right? So you can see this in some of the plants. In some plants it is shed at two cell stage, and in some plants it is shed at three cell stage. So pollen tube after reaching the ovary, what will it do? Pollen tube after reaching the ovary, as I have already explained, enters the ovule through the micropyle and then enters one of the synergids through the filiform apparatus. As I said, the filiform apparatus will guide the pollen tube carrying the two male gametes to enter the synergids. And what is so very important of the egg apparatus? It contains very important cell called egg cell, where one of the male gamete is coming and fusing. So it is a very, very important, filiform apparatus is very important. So the same diagram I have explained in the previous slide, it is same pollen pistil interaction. So only when the pollen grains are compatible, it accepts and allows it to form a pollen tube. Here you can see it is not accepted. Here also you can see that there is no formation of a pollen tube. This is called compatible pollen grains, and these three are called incompatible pollen grains. Hope you have understood a very, very important concept of this chapter called sexual reproduction in flowering plants, that is the pollen pistil interaction. This is also asked in the examination. What are the advantages of pollen pistil interaction? As I said, pollen pistil interaction is a dynamic process. it has to happen for a very important event to take place, that is fertilization. If there is no pollen pistil interaction, definitely there is no process of fertilization. So we call it as a dynamic process involving what? Involving recognition, that is the stigmatic surface will recognize the pollen grains of its own type, the compatible type, followed by what? Either promotion or inhibition of the pollen. Only if the pollen grains are compatible, then only it will allow the promotion of what? Germination. If at all, if it recognizes the pollen grains as incompatible, then what will it do? It will inhibit. What do you mean by inhibition? Inhibition, it will not allow the process of formation of a pollen tube. Identifying it as a compatible type, it will allow the promotion of the pollen tube. That is what I mean by, that is followed by promotion or inhibition of the pollen grain. Now, what is the advantage of this pollen pistil interaction? This knowledge of this pollen pistil interaction will definitely help whom? Particularly the plant breeders. Why particularly the plant breeders? Because you can manipulate the pollen pistil interaction. What do you mean by manipulate the pollen pistil interaction? You can take the pollen grains of your desire and dust it on the stigmatic surface of your desired flower. So you can produce a plant of your own desire. So you can also avoid contamination of the stigmatic surface with unwanted pollen grains. This is a very, very important mechanism which is done in the plant breeding programs, right? So understanding of pollen pistil interaction definitely is going to help the plant breeders in manipulating the pollen pistil interaction. Even in incompatible pollinations also you can get a desired hybrid. So what do you mean by desired hybrid? You can produce a plant of your own desire, or you can produce a flower of your own desire. Actually, you can understand this pollen germination process. Actually, this is there for your practical, and this is your first exercise of your practical. The first exercise is called pollen germination. How do you do that? Anyhow, you people are going to study in the practicals, but just to brief up, like how do you study about the pollen germination in your lab? You can take the pollen grains of either the Vinca rosea or the balsam plant and dust it on the slide, micro slide, and previously on the micro slide you should have taken 1 to 2 drops of what we call it as 10% sugar solution. So as I said, the pollen pistil interaction is also mediated by what? By chemical components. So one such component is what? Here, like you can take 10% sugar solution. So what you have to do is take 10% sugar solution. Take a slide. You have to take a slide like this. Then you have added what? You have added what? 10% sucrose solution. So you have taken the slide, micro slide, then you have added here in this particular center of the slide, you have added what? 10% sugar solution. Then you are going to dust the pollen grains of either the Vinca rosea or the balsam plant or the pea or the stick pea also. So you can just dust it on this particular region and allow the slide to remain for 15 to 20 minutes. After 15 to 20 minutes, observe the slide in the microscope. Then you will definitely see the process of, if at all if the pollen grains are received by the stigmatic surface, then you can see the process of pollen germination. What do you see that? You can see that pollen grains would have produced a pollen tube like this. So what does it indicate? That pollen germination has taken place. Suppose you don't see the process of formation of a pollen tube. You can see the ungerminated pollen grains like this. Then what does it indicate? That the pollen germination has not taken place. So this is a very, very important exercise of your practical syllabus. This is the first exercise in your practical called pollen germination. Hope you have understood this concept. So advantages of pollen pistil interaction. So the knowledge of this pollen pistil interaction will definitely help the plant breeders in manipulating the pollen pistil interaction to produce what? The plants of your desire. Actually, this is called as cross pollination. This is called induced cross pollination, or you can also call it as controlled pollination, right? Pollen tube entry through the regions. So suppose the pollen tube takes its entry through the micropylar region. So as I said, the pollen tube will carry the 2 male gametes and reaches the ovule near the micropylar region. Suppose the pollen tube reaches the ovule through the micropylar region, it is called porogamy. Right. What are the examples you are going to give for plants which will take place like with help of porogamy? It is angiosperms. I repeat, suppose the pollen tube takes its entry through the micropylar region, it is called porogamy. Suppose, hope you remember you have studied the structure of the ovule in the last session, that is the chalajal region, where you come across which forms the basal part of the ovule, and the chalajal region has what? The 3 antipodal cells. Suppose the pollen tube takes its entry through the chalajal region, then it is called chalajogamy. Example, Casuarina. Suppose the pollen tube takes its entry through the integuments. Hope you remember that the 2 integuments is outer integument, exine, and the inner integument is called intine. Suppose the pollen tube takes its entry through the integuments, then it is called mesogamy. And the classical example which you are going to give is cucurbita. Hope you have understood these 3 types of entry. That is, when the pollen tube takes its entry through micropylar region, it is called porogamy. Suppose if it takes its entry through the chalajal region, it is called chalajogamy. Suppose if it takes its entry through the integuments, it is called mesogamy. Now, moving on to another very important concept of this chapter called artificial hybridization, which is a very important concept to be learned, and this is the concept which is quite commonly used in plant breeding programs to produce plants of their desire. So what is this artificial hybridization? What do you mean by artificial hybridization? As I said, desired hybrid can also be produced through this concept called artificial hybridization. So how do we define this artificial hybridization? Crossing of 2 genetically different individuals. Genetically both the individuals are different. For what you are using? Crossing of 2 genetically different individuals to create genotypes by controlled pollination is called artificial hybridization. What is the definition for artificial hybridization? Crossing of 2 genetically different individuals to create genotypes by controlled pollination is called artificial hybridization. It is not through natural pollination, it is called controlled. You are taking the pollen grains of your desire and you are going to dust it on the stigmatic surface of the flower which you desire. So it is not the natural type of pollination which is going to take place in this process called artificial hybridization. It is called controlled pollination. The whole mechanism of the process is called artificial hybridization. I repeat, what is the definition for artificial hybridization? Crossing of 2 genetically different individuals to create what? To create genotypes. By which method? By controlled pollination is called artificial hybridization. As said, it is one of the major approaches for what? For the improvement of crops, and for the improvement program, crop improvement programs, they apply this artificial hybridization, right? And what is very important in such experiments, what do you get? Only the desired pollen grains you are going to take and you are going to dust it on the desired flower. By this you can produce the plants of your own desire. And how is this artificial hybridization obtained? It is achieved by 2 very important process. One is called emasculation, the other one is called bagging. What are the 2 techniques that are applied in artificial hybridization? The 2 very important techniques that are applied in artificial hybridization is emasculation and the other one is bagging. Hope you have understood this very important artificial concept called artificial hybridization. Artificial hybridization is what? Producing the individuals of your own desire by crossing what? By crossing 2 genetically different individuals. And how is it achieved? Artificial hybridization is achieved by 2 very important techniques called emasculation and bagging techniques. Hope you can see in this picture. You are taking the pollen grains of your own desire and you are going to dust it on the flower, which on the stigmatic surface of the flower what you desire. So this is called controlled pollination, right? It is not the natural mode of pollination that is taking place. As I said, artificial hybridization is achieved by emasculation and bagging. So what is emasculation? Here you can see in this beautiful picture, only the anthers are removed. So what do you mean by, what is anther? Anther is nothing but the male reproductive unit, right? So here, what is emasculation? It is a technique of removal of anthers from the flower before they dehisce and release the pollen grains. Hope you have studied in the last session the structure of a mature anther. As you know, the mature anther will dehisce, will break open at one particular region to release what? To release the pollen grains. So what is emasculation? It is nothing but a technique of removal of anthers from the flower before they dehisce. What do you mean by dehisce? Break open. So what will happen? If at all if it is broken, all the pollen grains will be released. So before it dehisces and releases the pollen grains, the anthers are removed. This technique of removing only the anthers is called emasculation. So this is one very important technique through which you can also achieve artificial hybridization. So what is emasculation? It is a technique of removal of anthers from the flower before they dehisce and release what? Release the pollen grains onto the stigmatic surface of the same flower. This is quite common, as I said. Plants will avoid self-pollination and will encourage what? Cross-pollination. But in this artificial hybridization, we are doing what? Controlled pollination. You are taking the pollen grains of your own desire and going to dust it on the stigmatic surface of the flower which you desire. For what? To produce a plant of your own desire. So to produce a hybrid. So this is a very, very important technique in artificial hybridization. Moving on to the second technique of artificial hybridization, that is bagging. What is bagging? Here you can see in this beautiful picture what has been done here. The flowers are bagged or covered with a polythene bag or a butter paper. Sometimes it is covered by, here it is covered by a polythene bag, or sometimes it might be also covered with a butter paper. Why the stigmatic surface of a flower is covered with this? So that you can avoid the contamination of the stigmatic surface with unwanted pollen grains. So only the pollen grains which you desire, you are going to dust it on the stigmatic surface of a flower. So what is this? During artificial hybridization, as I said, to prevent contamination of the pollen grains, the stigma of the flower should be covered either by butter paper or polythene cover. So once the flower attains, the stigmatic surface of a flower attains receptivity. What do you mean by receptivity? It is now ready to accept the pollen grains. Then the mature pollen grains are collected from anthers of the plant which you desire and dusted on the stigmatic surface and again rebagged. Why again it is rebagged? Again some other unwanted pollen grains may fall on the stigmatic surface. So in order to avoid all that complications, again once the pollen grains of your desire are dusted, again the flower is rebagged with a polythene bag or a butter paper, right? But if at all if it is a female plant, if it is a female plant, there is no need for emasculation. If it is a unisexual female flower, there is no need for emasculation. But this emasculation is a process which need to be done if at all it is a bisexual flower. But in case of female flower, what is the next very important thing has to be done? The female flower buds should be bagged before the flowers open. So what will happen if the flower is open? Again it may receive the pollen grains of unwanted flower. So when the stigma becomes receptive, pollination is carried using the desired pollen and the flower is rebagged. So this is a very, very important technique to achieve artificial hybridization. What are the two very important techniques? One is called emasculation. What is emasculation? Emasculation is nothing but a technique of removal of anthers before they dehisce and release the pollen grains on the stigmatic surface of a flower. What is bagging? Bagging is what? Covering the stigmatic surface of a flower with a polythene bag. And once the stigma becomes receptive, then you are going to remove the polythene bag, then you are going to dust the pollen grains of your desire and again you are going to rebag it. Why? To avoid the falling of the unwanted pollen grains. Hope you have understood the concept of artificial hybridization. Moving on to the last part of this session called double fertilization and triple fusion. This is a very, very important diagram to be learned, children, a very important concept. Why it is called double fertilization and triple fusion? What is double fertilization? As the fusion of two male gametes with two different components of the embryo sac. What is fertilization? Double fertilization, the fusion of two male gametes. As I said, the pollen tube carries what? The two male gametes, right, which is produced through the mitotic division of the generative cell. And one of the component of the pollen tube, that is one of the male gamete, is going to fuse with egg, the other one with the secondary nucleus, which is in the central part, central cell, what we say. That whole process is called as fertilization, right? What is it? The fusion of the two male gametes with two different components of the embryo sac. What are the two very important components of the embryo sac? One is the egg cell, the other one is the secondary nucleus. The fusion of the two male gametes with two different components of the embryo sac, namely the egg and the secondary nucleus, is called fertilization. Because this whole process, that is the whole process of fertilization that involves, and this process of fusion of one of the male gamete with the egg is called syngamy. This is called syngamy. What do you mean by syn? Fusion. Gamy means gametes. So one of the male gamete, that is one of the male gamete fuses with what? Fuses with egg cell, and this is called syngamy. Whereas one of the male gamete, that is another male gamete, will fuse with what? With secondary nuclei. Secondary nuclei. This is called triple fusion. As the process of fusion is taking place 2 times. As the process of fusion is taking place 2 times, hence the name double fertilization. Why it is called double fertilization? One of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form what? To form zygote. The other male gamete fuses with the secondary nucleus to form endosperm nucleus. So the process of fusion or fertilization is taking place 2 times, hence the name double fertilization. As I said, double fertilization includes what? Includes syngamy and triple fusion. That is, this fertilization includes what? Syngamy and triple fusion. What is syngamy? Fusion of one of the male gamete with the egg cell to form the zygote, and the other male gamete fusing with the secondary nucleus to form endosperm. Secondary nucleus is already haploid, 2 haploid cells, and one of the male gamete is one more haploid cell. So 3 haploid cells are formed, hence the name triple fusion. 3 means, that is, here it is triple fusion. So as I said, the whole process of fertilization that involves both syngamy and triple fusion. Syngamy and triple fusion is known as double fertilization. The definition is very, very important, right? So what is double fertilization? The fusion of the 2 male gametes with 2 different components of the embryo sac, namely the egg and the secondary nucleus, is called fertilization. Here you can see in this beautiful picture. Here, as I said, the degenerating antipodal cells. Where do you find this? Near the Chalajal region. Here this is the micropylar region. This is the embryo sac. As I said, one of the male gamete comes and fuses with the egg cell to form what? To form zygote. And actually this is called embryo, this is called egg apparatus. This whole thing will be called as what? Egg apparatus. What is carried in the egg apparatus? Egg apparatus contains 2 synergids and 1 egg cell. So one of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form zygote, and the remaining 2 synergids will degenerate, and the other male gamete will come and fuse with the secondary nucleus to form what? Primary endosperm nucleus. That is called primary endosperm cell, called PEC, to form what? Primary endosperm nucleus, that is called PN. Here, because it is 3 haploid cells, it is called 3N or triple fusion. Again, what will happen to the 3 antipodal cells? They degenerate. This whole diagram is very, very important for you all to explain the concept of double fertilization and triple fusion, and this is a question which is asked for 5 marks in your examination. Explain the process of double fertilization with a schema, with a diagram, with a neat labeled diagram. Then you have to draw the diagram of this picture, then explain the concepts of double fertilization, how double fertilization takes place, why it is called double fertilization and why it is called triple fusion. And as I said, since the 2 types of fusion such as syngamy and triple fusion takes place in the embryo sac, hence it is called as what? Double fertilization, which is a very unique event in the flowering plants. Here you can see the diagram here, the same diagram, right? So here you can see the synergids will degenerate. So one of the male gamete that is carried through the pollen tube fuses with the egg cell and forms what? Forms zygote. Here you can see, I will show you it in the next picture. The other one will fuse with the secondary nucleus. Here you can see the 2 polar nuclei and will form what? Endosperm. will form the endosperm, right? So here you can see here, that is the male gametes. The male gametes are released from the pollen tube. Here what is formed? Zygote is formed. Here it fuses with the two polar nuclei to form what? Endosperm. Here you can see the endosperm. Here you can see the zygote. So what is it? Since two types of fusions such as syngamy and triple fusion takes place in an embryo sac, the phenomenon is termed as what? Double fertilization, which is a very unique event in what? In flowering plants. And as I said, the central cell after triple fusion becomes what? Becomes primary endosperm cell and develops into what? Endosperm. A very, very important concept to be noted, children. Why? Because without the process of formation of endosperm, the development of zygote will not take place. So the zygote makes sure that the endosperm is formed first, then the process of development of the zygote into embryo will take place. So endosperm is nothing but the reserve food materials that is provided for the developing zygote. Zygote develops into what? Into an embryo. As I said, zygote is always a diploid single cell which will become multicellular through a series of mitotic cell division. So during that process of zygote developing into an embryo, it needs the reserve food material which is provided by the endosperm. Hope you have understood this concept of double fertilization. So what were the concepts we studied in today's session, children? We studied about the pollen pistil interaction. What is the advantage of pollen pistil interaction? Then we studied about artificial hybridization. Then we studied about double fertilization. So with this I have completed this session 3 of this chapter 2 called sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So in my coming session, what I am going to deal in the coming session? So in my coming session, I will be dealing with a concept called post-fertilization events. The post-fertilization event is nothing but the process of endosperm and the development of an embryo, which you are going to study. Right, that is called post-fertilization. What do you mean by post-fertilization? After fertilization. So after fertilization, what is formed? Endosperm is formed and the development of the embryo has to, the zygote has to develop into a embryo. So that is what you are going to study in this particular part. And then you are going to study about a seed, dicot embryo and a monocot embryo. Right. So we will meet you in the coming session. Till then, thank you.